Piccadilly Press presents the Nell and the Cave Bear audio collection, written by Martin Brown and read by Holly Taylor. This collection includes the titles Nell and the Cave Bear and The Journey Home. It was a long, long time ago, when the land beyond the mountains was an everlasting sea of ice. But below the mountains, the hard winter was over. Spring had finally come to the valley, and the melting snow released a thunderous torrent of water into the river. Along its banks, the water dug at the earth and pulled at the reeds, swallowing soil and rocks and plants alike, turning the wave-peaked surge a dull, muddy brown. At the edge of the big forest, the trunk of an old tree was losing its grip on a disappearing riverside. Slowly it began to lean over, inch by inch. First one stumpy root giving up on the ground, then another. It bent further and further towards the rushing water, until it seemed to hover horizontal between falling and fallen, between land and stream. Then, at last, almost without a sound, it sank into the river, where the mighty current tore it from the bank as if it were little more than a twig. Rolling and twisting, the ancient tree was swept away in the flood. Just a few roots and some short branches showing, and its single occupant wondering what the heck was going on. Chapter 1. Everyone at the cave was busy. Bright morning sunshine lit the valley and poured into the broad open space, illuminating the bustling activity inside. Woolly rugs were beaten and the dusty earthen floor swept. Rubbish that had piled up over the long winter months was carried out and down to the heap. Fresh reeds and ferns for bedding were brought in. Bone needles were being used to repair clothes, while the flint makers chipped away at new axes and spearheads. There was a lot to do. Not only did the cave need a good spring clean, the people living there, amongst the scattered trees and rocky outcrops, needed to prepare for their annual trip to the hunting grounds up on the Great Plain. But there was an extra buzz in the air. In just a little while, their seaside cousins were coming for a visit. It was always a special occasion when the Cave Clan and the Sea Clan got together. It didn't happen very often. The weather had to be just right to allow for the long trek up or down the valley. If the snow melted too late, no one would be able to get through. If spring came early, the Cave Clan would have already left to follow the hunt. If there were storms, the Sea Clan had to stay to protect their boats and huts. And they'd also stay if the ocean was calm and the fishing was good. So everyone was busy. Mums were trying to tidy and pack and make things look welcoming, while also attempting to look after the toddlers and babies, who all seemed to start running around or needing changing at precisely the same time. The older folk were talking a lot, planning the feast and the sleeping arrangements and remembering when the seaside relatives were here last. The young men sat in the sunshine checking their new flint weapons and chatting about the upcoming hunting season. In the centre of all the activity stood Maeve, older, wiser, and slightly fatter than the others, sternly directing operations and making sure everybody had a job to do. Perhaps the busiest of all was Nell and her pet cave bear cub, who had never found a better name than Cave Bear. It seemed every grown-up in the cave wanted Nell to do something just for them. Gordon wanted her to get more firewood. Fiona wanted help with the little ones. Sue needed the baskets of bones emptied. Ken told her to sweep up all the chips left over from chipping flints. There were fur rugs to shake, food to put away, and water to fetch. When you don't have a mum and dad, everyone else steps in to be your mum and dad instead. That's great when it's stories and cuddles, but not so good when it's work and chores. The other children all seemed to be much older or younger than her. The young ones were either too young to help or old enough to be a nuisance. The bigger kids seemed to have sneaked off and were nowhere to be seen. That left Nell and Cave Bear to be everyone's helper. Not that a bear cub could help that much. He tried, tugging at rugs or dragging pieces of wood. But it was Nell who did most of the sweeping, cleaning, fetching and carrying. For the third time that morning, Nell
Sample complete. Ready to continue?